Welcome back to Likras. We're working on Parshas Mattos towards the end of Chumash Bamidbar. So Torah starts, V'diber Moshe Roshei Matos of Bnei Yisrael, Zeh hadavar. There's a phrase used, Zeh. The word Zeh means this. We're going to talk about the this. So, we're learning the Sefer Yismach Moshe. So, the Rebbe Yismach Moshe quotes a Medrash. Medrash says, Magid shekonavam is navu beko. Kach Moshe is navu beko. Mosi v'lei Moshe is navu bezeh hadavar. Zeh shamar kosev tovasher lo tider misha tider v'lo tishali. So, we find that Moshe Rabbeinu spoke in the word ko, such, which is used by all prophets. Moshe Rabbeinu also did. And Moshe is unique that he has also the word zeh. And somehow this is connected to the pasuk in Koheles that says it's better to not make a neder than to make a neder and not pay. Meaning, don't promise to do something you're not going to do it. And notes the Rebbe Yismach Moshe, this medrash doesn't seem to make sense. What's he gonna talking about the end of the medrash with a neder you're going to and you're not going to, with which word you use thus or you use the word this? What's the difference? So to explain, V'nili Yashiv Akol says the Rebbe Yismach Moshe, Al Pi Masha Marti on a different pasuk in Parshas Yisrael, Ko Somar the Beis Yaakov is talking to the Bnei Yisrael. We find Moshe is using the word Ko in Parshas Yisrael, and such you will say to Beis Yaakov, Atem Yisem Eila Dvar Mishet Teber Bnei Yisrael. You have to understand, it starts with ko, and then it switches to Eila Advarim. Eila is these are the words. And why does it have to say both? And it starts with Beis Yaakov, and then it switches to Bnei Yisrael. And the Medrash says that Ein Yisrael Nizonin El B'schus HaEmunah. What Klal Yisrael is nizon from, what they get their sustenance from, is because they have Emunah. The Meforshim explain that what's it mean? That today, meaning in this world, a person can do the mitzvahs, and then future, in the next world, that's when he gets the reward for the mitzvahs, because there's no reward for mitzvahs in this world. And another concept, this is going to be important for us, that we find that Kadosh Baruch Hu keeps his Torah. Just like we're meant to keep the Torah, Hashem also keeps the Torah. He quotes the Yerushalmi Rosh Hashanah on this idea. So, therefore, there's another pasuk. So Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to keep his Torah. Torah says when you hire a worker, on that day you hired him as a day worker, pay him at the end of the day, right away. Don't wait. Don't hold the money by you. Pay your worker. So now, if that's the case, if Kadosh Baruch Hu keeps his Torah and he tells us mitzvahs to do, and the Torah says you have to pay your worker right away, so Kadosh Baruch Hu should have to give us the reward right away. So why is it that the reward for mitzvahs is saved to the next world? So to explain this question, there's an exception to the rule of paying right away. What's the exception to the rule of paying right away? That if you have an agent in the middle and you tell your agent, hire for me workers, and I want you to pay them with my money, you're working for me, but you're the agent to do the job, and he does that. He goes to work and says, I'd like to hire you. I'm representing this balabas, and he's going to pay you the work. In such a case, when an agent did it, then there's no requirement of paying on the same day. The agents that have to pay because he didn't hire him. The balabas didn't directly hire him, so that's an exception to the rule, and you don't need to pay the same day. Now, let's take that exception and work with it. Torah, the word Torah, if you look at the gematria of the word Torah, the Taf and Reish, that's 600. You left the Vav and Hey, 6 and 5. And gematria, it's 611. So Torah Tzivah Lanu Moshe, Pasuk says, Moshe Rabbeinu said to us, taught us Torah, 611, Shtayim Mipi Gvur Shemanu. And we heard two mitzvahs directly from Hashem. Therefore, on the 611 mitzvahs, so then Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't have to pay us right away because it was a shliach who told us, Moshe told us, not Hashem directly. But on the two mitzvahs that we heard directly from Hashem, so there should be a requirement that Hashem should pay right away. And what are those two mitzvahs? Those two mitzvahs are Anochi Hashem Elokecha, know that Hashem is God, and Lo Yeh Elohim Acherim, don't have any other gods. So it's the mitzvah of Amunah that should be paid right away. So that's why it says, Chazal say, that Ein Yisrael Nizonim Ela B'schus Amunah. What's it mean that Klal Yisrael gets their sustenance from the schus Amunah? It's a medrash that he quoted. It means that this they get paid right away. Why? Because this they heard directly from Hashem, and since Hashem has to keep the Torah, so Hashem has to pay them right away. Now, let's go to our original point. Ko versus ze. So that was what we're working on. Here in this week's parsha it says ze. So every time it says ko, so that means such it was said. That's a dibra yadei shliach. That means the Navi speaking as an agent of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. But if you say zeh davar, then it means the Shechina, as it were, is speaking directly through Moshe, and therefore it's, as it were, Hashem speaking. And another halacha in this requirement of paying a worker right away, it's if the worker comes to collect the money. The worker has to come at the end of the day and say, I'd like to be paid for my day's work, and then you have a requirement to pay him the same day. If the worker chooses not to show up, not to come collect his money, so then you don't have to run after him. You're not required to. You could, but you're not required to run after him to pay him on the same day. So, therefore, when we say with Moshe, when he said the word zeh, so if it's a Kodesh Baruch Hu speaking, you should have to pay right away. And therefore, they should get the reward in this world and not the next world. But this is dependent on whether they come with a claim. Does Klal Yisrael come with a claim? Now, Klal Yisrael has different parts to it. So there's the Bnei Aliyah, people who are sophisticated in their spirituality, so they're not going to come with a claim against Hashem. They'd actually prefer to get paid in the next world. It's much better. It's forever. This world is passing. It's temporary. So they're not going to trade a temporary world for a permanent world, so they're not going to ask for their money. Therefore, for them, there's no Baal Tolin. But other people, more simple people, on a more simple spiritual identity, so they don't really appreciate Olam Haba because they can't see it. They can't touch it right now. So therefore, they're going to ask and they'll say, I should get paid. So therefore, in this, there should be a Baal Tolim. So if so, Hashem should pay them in this world. So how is it that Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to deal with these people? They want their pay in this world. And Kodesh Baruch Hu would really prefer to give them the next world because that's better for them. So therefore, how are we going to solve this conundrum? On the one hand, they want. On the other hand, it's not best for them. So that's what the Medrash says. That's the combination of the zeh with you shouldn't make a neder. Because all the Nevi'im said ko. So therefore, they're shliach. There's no requirement to pay right away. Here, we find Moshe Rabbeinu says the word zeh. So the Bnei Aliyah, they're not looking like we explained. But for everybody else, it says zeh. Therefore, it adds the idea, it's better not to make a neder at all. You shouldn't be the one to make a neder. It's better not make a neder than be the one who makes a neder and doesn't pay, is what the Medrash says. That's the pasuk in Koheles. But it's coming to tell us, don't make a neder at all. I mean, this parsha where it says zeh davar is talking about making a neder, an oath. And it says, don't make a neder, the Medrash says. Since you should not do it, even if you're the Hamon, you should not do it. So therefore, since you should not do it, there's no reason that you'll be asking for a reward right now in Olam Haza to your detriment, to take away from your Olam Haba. Therefore, he's able to say zeh. Zeh because the Bnei Aliyah, those people that are spiritually sophisticated, are not asking for their reward. And the simple people, they're not able to ask for reward because they're not supposed to take the neder in the first place. If you don't take the neder, there's nothing you're getting reward for.